Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Ask a DM, the D&D show where I answer your questions along with a guest DM. If you are watching this live in the chat, just make sure to throw all of your questions in there and we will get to them as we get along. If you're watching this after the fact, put them down in the comments and I will get them back to them next week with the next guest. But let me introduce who the guest is this week. Do you want to go ahead and introduce who you are, Justin?
Hello, my name is Justin, and I run the YouTube channel Dorans and Dragons. Um, I started around the same time as Shrike, and when he put out his invite out on Twitter, I was like, "Oh my god, I'd love to!" I've watched a lot of your content, and I was excited to piggyback onto your platform and talk about mine. So, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Perfect. And all of your socials are down in the description as well. So if you want to go check out what Justin is doing, go down in the description and click through. A lot of your content is talking about League of Legends lore or builds, as well as Dungeons and Dragons, isn't it? Do you want to talk
Yeah,
about how you came up with that idea and what got you into it?
yeah. So it's like it started off as conversations me and my brother actually had. This was in the beginning supposed to be me and my brother's baby, because we would, like I was telling you in that pre chat, we would go to those Sunday dinners, and while my parents would cook, me and him would be like, oh, you know what, Annie would be like a fiend warlock with maybe some levels in druid, so we could get tibbers out there, and we just kept having those conversations, and I stumbled upon on YouTube Tulok the Barbarian's channel, and saw how he did builds, and I was like, oh my god, this is such a great idea, but he doesn't do any league content. So I kind of like took his style, his format, brought it over, tweaked it a lot so it was like my own at least, and then that's where it came from. I mean, I just took those conversations that me and my brother had, and made them into these YouTube videos, and it's really funny. I think we're in episode 89 now or 90, and the other day I went back and watched those first few, and I was like, it's insane how far we've come in 2 years.
Yeah, definitely. I've got back and looked at some of my old videos as well, and it's quite cringy to think about it, but it's fine.
Yeah.
We got Mr. Cage coming in saying hello as well,
Oh, it's Mr.
and
Kage. It's Mr.
Mr.
Kage.
Kage.
Now
Okay.
that's hilarious. I have to tell you about this. So, uh, Mr. So the thing I do with my YouTube channels is, or with my YouTube channel, sorry, with my Patreon is, the first time you join the Patreon as like a Blade Tier Plus member, you can pick your champion, and I give you a specific shout out for the build for that champion. I hadn't talked to Mr. Kage yet, and I had said, because I didn't do that, I had no idea how to pronounce his name. I said Mr. Cage in the YouTube video, and he corrected me in like a DM, and he's like, it's actually Kage, like from Naruto. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, because I can't go back and change it now. It's
Yeah.
immortalized as an error. But
I,
so it's funny that you
well,
just did that.
yeah, I'll make sure to say Mr. Kage for the rest of the show
Yeah.
if you're asking some questions. We've also got Slick Sick as well coming in as well, saying hello to Kage. Is this the first time you've shown your face? It's quite
Yes. Yes. So Slick Sick is what I call my build stream guru. So for for the builds, this might come up later during the conversation, but we have a build stream once or twice, probably twice a month, where I'll build the next couple champions on stream with people, getting there at kind of crowdsourcing ideas for the builds, and really they act like my sounding board. So when I get things out of my head and say it out loud, if it sounds dumb, um, well, I can hear it out loud, and they'll tell me, "Hey, no, that's silly," and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, you're right." And it's a lot. It makes it collaborative, and it's a lot of fun. And I mean, I tend to shout out when other people's ideas make it in. So Slick Sick is someone I call the build stream guru, because he's been on pretty much all of them, and always has great ideas
nice.
and always helps out.
Very nice. Well, thank you for coming by and checking out this as well. I feel blessed that I've got your face on my channel before it's on your channel. Okay, we got a lot of chat as well. We've got some questions coming in, but how I usually start these chats is just by some generic questions about what type of DM you are. So we're going to start there before we get into the other questions that have come in. So first off, do you usually homebrew or do you usually run modules?
So, I started off with the Lost Mines of Phandelver. But, thanks to a lot of YouTube, this was probably around 4 years ago, thanks to a lot of YouTube creators like, Dungeon Dudes, XP to Level 3, um, How to Be a Better DM, those channels. I actually felt like I had kind of like, I built a lot of confidence in myself. So I took the skeleton of Lost Mines of Phandelver, took out the meat and put in my own meat, and took like the characters, my friends' characters ideas that they had, and really like brought it in there. I don't know. Are you familiar with Phandelver?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
So like the mansion where like the red what are they, the red brand? Where
Yes.
they hide in their hideout in town, that burned out mansion.
Yeah.
Well, I made it at my one of my player characters' mansion that they had fled
Okay.
from, that they had taken over. So he had like kind of a personal stake in going in there, and one of the crypts they broke open contained the bodies of his parents, and he like got
That's
like a
pretty dark.
family signet ring out of it, like
Nice.
little stuff like that. So I took the meat out and used the skeleton to make kind of our own story. But that was years ago. Now I'm in a completely um, in a completely homebrewed world. Right now we are in basically Atlantis, with the city of sea elves. And I homebrew like pretty much all the magic items they get are homebrewed by me, because I'm a big believer in character, and items to enhance that character, or that character's idea of their character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, if we kind of work back and forth. I kind of suss out where they want to go as a character. And then I kind of like help nudge them along the way, or give them these cool ideas where they can choose, they like get kind of a railroad, a split in how they were going to go.
Nice.
But yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I think
Also, if I'm long winded, please feel free to cut me off.
that's fine. It's all interesting stuff you're saying. That's pretty much the same journey I took as well. I started with modules and then heavily changed them and then decided, you know what, I might as well just make my own homebrew. I'm changing them so much at this point.
Yeah.
You got Mr. Kage saying he's probably one of the few people that have never played Mines of Foundelver. It is a very good adventure, to be fair, and it's a very good starting one. If you're newer to DMing it, it does help you quite a lot, and for the players as well.
Good one to cut your teeth on, I think.
Cool. I think we're just going to get straight into the questions because we've got a few that have come in now. So let's just jump straight in. So Prince has said, what are you going to do when you finish making League Champs? Have you thought about this at all?
We've talked about it a lot, and I think that the answer is two things, right? I don't know if we'll ever finish, because at the rate that Riot spits out champions, and then you have like the VGUs, which are their visual gameplay updates, I believe, and they have a couple acronyms where they update the champions, and every time they do one of those, we try to get on board with that, and try and take advantage of the algorithm. Like Zera just released, so we're going to be building her this week. And people are like, "Hey, when's Udyr coming out?" And I'm like, "Well, he's about to get remaked, so I don't see the reason to build him right this second." And then, as I think some of the people are alluding to in the comments right now, that each champion has so many skins that, I mean, we could make who do we just build? Nami, right? You could take Nami and use her program skin and do a completely different character and make it like an artificer and a warforged artificer and make it completely different. So I don't think we'll ever be finished. I'll probably be old, and this channel I'll be retired before they're done.
It's just an extension on this question. Have you thought about doing builds from the extended world that they're now adding as well, i.e. Arcane?
I'm not opposed to it. It's kind of, it goes against the formula we have, where and because of the formula, it kind of like butts heads with making other characters, right? But no, of course not. I mean, I I loved Arcane. I would love to make like kind of a Silco build, or hopefully Vander's not dead and we'll get to see him come back. Spoilers.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it yet, that's on you. Honestly, it's Netflix's #1 show. I think it's been quite a
It's been
bit.
out a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We got another one from I think Rajmond is how I'm going to say you say that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Justin, will you remake the old videos if you were
Oh,
used?
absolutely. I mean, I watched the Yasuo one, which is the first one, and not only can we build him better now, I think a lot of things. I've improved a lot as a builder of characters in general, but just like even giving him the updated treatment of how we do our videos now versus how we did them then. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. We got quite a lot of chat going on. I'm trying to keep on top of it while you're talking. I'm not ignoring you.
No, you're good.
Mr. Kage saying, "Who's going to succeed you?"
Oh, I mean, there's a couple people in the Discord who think they're gonna succeed me before I even go. So
they're trying to out you already.
yeah, no, I'm
Nice.
just kidding. But yeah, I don't know. Anyone, I'm always looking for someone who wants to join the channel, kind of do help with some of the work. I
Cool.
think that'd be fun.
Yeah, definitely. Silk6 saying that you could also move into Smite and Dota builds if you were interested in that. You might have to change the name of your channel,
Right?
though, but you could do that as well. Mr. Kage saying, how long have you been playing TTRPGs?
Ooh. Consistently and like hardcorely, I would say probably about 4 to 5 years. I really tried to get into it in high school, but it just I think a lot of people don't realize we're kind of living in the nerd renaissance right now. And before that, man, it was hard. It wasn't cool to play D&D, and now it kind of is. And all the strides we've made with comic book movies and stuff like that. Yeah, so I wish I could have played sooner. I tried to get a game in high school of, I think it was 3.5, or yeah, 3.5 back then, but I couldn't get it to keep Steam.
I think that was about the same as me, probably about 5 years. But I started on Pathfinder actually, and then moved to fifth edition. But I only was on Pathfinder for about 6 months, so didn't really get that much into it. And then moved over to 5e. And I definitely had the same experience of you, where I remember, I don't think I've actually shared this before, but I remember when I was in my secondary school or high school, as you call it in the US, there was a group of people that would play D&D after school, but they would get not like hardcore bullied, but they would get like the fun taken out of them because they would like have all the books and like be carrying a load of books and a load of miniatures, so people would take the fun out of them. And because I was obviously a lot less confident back then, although I wanted to play D&D, I didn't join because I didn't want people to make fun of me as well. But I was
Yeah,
always interested. I remember one guy at school telling me what Dungeons and Dragons is and explain it to me, and I was like, that is the coolest thing I think I've ever
yeah,
heard. But I never got into it because I was too scared of getting picked on and bullied. But I wish that I had just had more of a backbone back then and got into it, because now I've only been playing it for probably 5-6 years,
could have
and
been doing it your whole
yeah, love it.
life.
Exactly. So
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
one
yeah,
of
man, it's
one of those things.
crazy. Yeah, yeah, you can go to my county's public library system has games once or twice a month, and like all these comic book shops that have games going. Well, not anymore, I think, due to COVID, but
Yeah.
right before the pandemic, I mean, it's a great time to get into the game. And then it's kind of hit or miss, but with Roll20, I mean, you can generally find a game to get in.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many groups out there and Discords and Facebook groups looking for
Hmm.
players now, so you can definitely find a game. We got a question. Oh, we got Sir How to D&D Fred coming by saying hi to both of us. Thank you for
Hello.
coming by. And then Prince asking another question. What is your favorite campaign you've DM'd or played in so far?
So the only one I finished is the Fandelver one I was referring to earlier. Um, we had a lot of cool, awesome moments in that campaign. Um, So that's got to be my favorite because it actually ended. Whereas the one we're playing now, we are still going on. There's a lot of great stuff happening, but and there are moments that have eclipsed some of the moments we've had in that campaign. But because this one actually ended and has a sense of finality to it, I have to go with that one. How about you?
Yeah, I think that's probably the same for me. The first one I ran, and this might have been a mental idea for me, but it lasted for 3 years, and it was homebrew because I did modules, but I sort of just did part of the book, and it was like I don't really like. So I started with I tried doing Rise of Tiamat as well, and I didn't really like it that much and stuff. So the first homebrew campaign that was actually completed was probably my favorite. And I think that was also where I grew the most as a DM. Like if I could go back and watch like the first 5 sessions, it probably would have been absolutely terrible, even though the players who enjoyed it. Versus the last 5 sessions, I feel like I was probably a significantly better DM. So
Isn't that what
that's
really
awesome.
matters at the end of the day, though?
Yeah, exactly.
Did we have a good time here? Yeah. All right, then we did great.
Yeah, everyone's happy. Thumbs up. Good to go. We got a question from Slick6. So, what's your favorite class to play as, and do you prefer sticking to one class or multi-classing?
So this is I might be unintentionally revealing a bias here in my builds, but my favorite class is sorcerer. And I know that's an unpopular opinion because I know they're not treated that well in 5e, and I know that. But the thing that me about sorcerer is that like the class fantasy of having this power within you that you can flavor and role play so much more easily than a wizard to me. I can feel it, and it makes it like a lot more internal, and I love the storytelling perspective of that. So it's definitely sorcerer for me. Um, and I got to play it. My sorcerer idea that I had, he was called the Spell Slinger, because he so he had this rune pistol that he called the Spell Slinger, and he hand carved it with runes, kind of like the arcane firearm that artificers now have. I had that idea before that was a thing, but so basically he would create spell slots as bullets. So it was limiting. I limited myself because I could only cast those spells that I had carved into the bullets. But then he would channel his energy through the pistol into the bullet, fire out the spell from the revolver, and it was just awesome. He was wearing like a trench coat, and he had like the hat. I don't know. I love sorcerer, and that's the answer to that question. Multi-classing though, um, um, well, obviously you need 2 levels of fighter because if you can't action surge, what's the point? No, I'm just kidding. Um, I think 2 levels of warlock for Eldritch Blast and Agonizing Blast are well worth it, especially as a sorcerer because you can twin it if you're casting it all in the same person. You can quicken it if you want to get 2 off in a round. Um, those two, that quick 2 level dip pays out its dividends time and time again.
Definitely. Yeah. Cool. I think that's interesting that you said sorcerer because a lot of people do think that it got done dirty from a mechanics point of view, but you make a good point that from a story point of view, you can actually do a lot with sorcerer. They're very versatile compared to some others. So yeah, that's good. I think my favorite's warlock. I just like the idea of being able to have a patron play with you and stuff like that. So that's all fun from a story point of view.
Yeah, anything that you can like get your DM to like give you some back and forth if and help. The more my players help me get them into the more my players help me get into their story and give me ways to get in and give them more stuff to do, the more they get to do. It's a win-win back and forth.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Kage asking, do you ban certain races or classes, and if so, any reasons why?
So in my homebrew world, the only race that's banned is elves. And it's only because there's a reason for it, not because I'm a race bigot or anything like that. Hopefully is obvious, but on my homebrew continent, the elves occupied a city, and the current kingdom that controls this continent. I'm trying to show them as like the imperialistic United States in throughout their time, and so uh, they ran the elves out in one night. They showed up. They like had a sneak attack, and they bombarded the elf city with fireballs and meteor storms, and tried to wipe them out because they wanted them off their continent. And they didn't succeed though. They pled to the Seychella, I believe I named her, the goddess of the sea, and she heard them and she pulled them all out of that city into the water because it was a coastal city, and pulled them down to what is now the Atlantis, which I was talking about earlier, and transformed them into the sea elves. So the only reason they're banned is that the race doesn't exist anymore. They all were converted into sea elves.
Yeah, that's fair enough, I guess.
Yeah.
They don't exist. You can't have them. Any classes that are banned, or?
Well, cleric is kind of in a weird spot. I kind of make everyone who wants to be a cleric, or no, just a cleric, have to come from another continent. Because the main storyline they're working on right now is the Pantheon has gone silent for this continent.
Oh, okay.
Because of reasons that are way too long to discuss on this, but so there's no Pantheon to talk to, and that's a main part of the story. So if you want to be a cleric, you unfortunately have to be from another continent. But we have 3, so it's still working.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you do, but always for story reasons rather than because something's overpowered or underpowered or whatever.
Oh, if something's luckily I don't play with any power builders or any min maxers, but if I did, I mean, I would just balance it on the back end anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
There's nothing in 5e that's like so broken that you can't manage it.
Yeah, I always think that like the DM can always fix stuff, because if a certain build is broken, then you could in theory have a bad guy that also has that build, and then it's an equal footing again. So there's always some things you can do with that. I don't ban any races and classes, and even some of the ones that so the gunslinger from Matt Mercer, which isn't an official one, I was like, there's not any guns in my games, but then a player really wanted to play a gunslinger, and I said, okay, well, if you come to me with a really interesting backstory as to why you're the only gunslinger in the thingy, then we'll go for it. And they did. So I allowed gunslinger in that instance as well. But I think I always think of story over mechanics and stuff. So if someone thinks they're going to enjoy a certain race and class, or even a multi-class combo, go for it. Yeah, it's fine. You can't break the game too much.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I understand to a certain extent, but that I've heard horror stories. You ever TTRPG horror stories on Reddit, and I look at these people and I'm like, well, why are you playing with these people?
Yeah, that's always what it comes down to.
Isn't the goal? I mean, the goal is to have fun, right?
Yeah, definitely. The next question I am not 100% familiar with. So Fred is asking, do you think the 33 races that were updated in Monsters of the Multiverse needed updating? I know they were updated, and I've seen some of Fire Mini's videos, but I don't know the ins and outs of what was updated. Are you familiar with it at all?
No, but if you're talking about the if that's a reference, I don't know if that's a reference to the updating of the alignment stuff. I'm on board with it. I think it's harmless, and it's like one minor footnote in a series of more important changes that are coming to the system and the sphere in general. So I don't know if that's referring to that, but if it is, then yes, I think it's fine.
Yeah, if you're still there, Fred, if you could just give us a quick lowdown on if this is related to that, or if there were some mechanical changes to the races, because I haven't looked it up. I've seen loads of people making YouTube videos on it, but I haven't got onto the bandwagon just yet. So we'll come back to that one. Cool. We're getting quite a few questions come through. Let me find the next one. Here you go. So, it's Mr. Kage speaking about mechanics of the game. What is your most and least favorite classes? So we spoke about the most. So what's your least favorite class?
Oh man. Least favorite. I honestly, this was an easy question. If anyone has watched my videos, know that an easy question for me before Tasha's was Ranger. I did not like the Ranger. I didn't. I think it was favored foe and natural explorer features at level 1, or the worst. I mean, I understood what they were going for, but they just woefully under delivered on these like core ranger concepts as a class. However, since Tasha's came out, man, I love them. I think they're so that those little changes they made all the difference. And so I don't really have a least favorite anymore. Pre Tasha's Ranger, I guess. How about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same Ranger. If I had to choose one, it'd still probably be the Ranger. But if so, I always think of this in two different ways because if I had to rank in order what classes I wanted to play, we probably should have mentioned. So before we went live, we both determined that we were forever DMs, and we never get to play. So if I had to rank in order all of the classes, I think the last one would actually be Monk for me. Rather, I think I'd play Ranger before because of the Tashers. So I would play a Drake Warden, I think they're called. Ranger. Before I would play any of the Monk subclasses. So I guess, but does that mean Monk's my least favorite class? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I like I think Sun Soul is really cool. I made a video joking about how it's called subclass subversions, where I changed talked about how it's the meme of it being a Dragon Ball Z subclass, and pointed out there's still some good flavor here. And my friend actually in my current campaign plays one, and I'm going to turn that off. I'm sorry about that. That's my Apple Watch going crazy.
That's not a problem.
So my friend plays a Sun Soul Monk, and all I did was give him special bracers called the Solaris bracers that reduces the key point cost of all of his Sun Soul features by 1. And since then, it's not like a perfect balance, but like it makes it so much easier for him to enjoy it and still get the monkey features out. Like he's not like constantly stressing about, oh, do I want to use the Sun Soul feature or do I want to still be able to play my monk? So but I agree. I feel like Monk Ranger people's two common least favorites. That's a pretty common trend.
Yeah, definitely. I don't now they've changed the Ranger. I don't think any of them are like really trash, but they're probably my two least favorite. I would say.
Yeah,
I reckon. Have you watched Vox Machina yet? The Legend of Vox Machina.
No? I didn't know it was out. So I've seen all the marketing, but I didn't actually know the release date. But all right now, man, I am behind on. I actually just caught up on Boba Fett. I need to finish catching up to Superman and Lois. You're catching me at a weird time where I'm not wearing a Superman shirt, but he's my favorite superhero, OG. And then I want to watch Vox Machina because obviously loved the Critical Role I did watch, but I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet.
Nice. Yeah, I've watched it and I've enjoyed it so far. I don't watch much in the way of animated shows, so Arcane was probably one of the first that I watched and enjoyed enough to complete. And Vox Machina is the same. I'm not sure if that's just because I already was invested in League of Legends lore and Vox Machina lore, so I just went through it, and enjoyed the stories. And maybe if I did watch some of the other animated shows that people have, if I just gave it a chance and stuck with it, I would get into them. But generally, I don't watch them. But I did enjoy Vox Machina quite a lot. I think they did it very well for the fans. Like they put a lot of Easter egg jokes in there that don't change the story, but little nods to jokes that they had in the campaigns, which is good.
Yeah. You know what? So that's really funny that you say that. So when I watched Arcane, I was like, oh my God, this is great. And then I'm like, now wait a minute, am I biased because I really love League, or is this actually great? So I actually put myself out there to a couple friends that don't play League, and I was like, hey, could you try and watch this for me and tell me what you think? And all three people that I did that with all told me it was great and that they liked it. And then you look at its popularity. I mean, there's no way that those were just League of Legends fans. It was so good. It touched people that didn't know about the game or didn't care about the game for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I know quite a few people that have never played the game that watched Arcane and then started playing the game. They quickly stopped because
Yeah.
they realised it's nothing like the show. But they did try the game, so that's interesting as well. That probably worked quite well for them. So, Mr. Kage, how us normies could get onto and nerd out online? Well, you're doing it right now. You're coming to a D&D talk show. That's pretty nerdy online. I'm not 100% sure what the question is here, but something I will say, and we can probably talk about, is that making a YouTube channel of something that you're passionate about or that you're into, it sort of brings a lot of other people passionate about that to you, which is really cool because, as I said, I was always interested in D&D. I then played D&D, loved it, got passionate in it, made a YouTube channel, and now I have so many people that I talk to who love D&D and I talk D&D all the time now. So if there is anyone out there who is thinking of making a YouTube channel about your passion, do it. And don't worry about, trying to get rich and stuff like that. Just think, I'm going to make some good friends and some good connections from this. I would definitely suggest that for anyone. Do you have anything to add to that at all?
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, I started this just to get my ideas out there, and the people that I've found have been the treasure that I really found along the way.
Yeah, definitely. You got Fred come back as well, saying that he'll ask the Monsters of Multiverse question a different day. So I appreciate that.
Sorry, I didn't know. Sorry, I couldn't answer it for you, bud.
Answer that better. And then coming in with we've got someone, King Baz of NL. I don't know if that's how you say that.
King,
has come
yes.
and is here now as well.
Welcome, buddy.
And then Fred asking, do you use downtime activities in your adventures and campaigns if players are interested?
Oh, absolutely. So the character my brother is playing is a forge cleric who is his patron is Odom, who is a play on Orn, who his all of his spells are forge based. He's a forge cleric, and as a result, he likes to ting ting ting. He likes to make his own armor. He owns a blacksmithing shop in the starting city. I would call that a downtime activity. If you're talking about a lot of crafting we do, because my players, their downtime activities are definitely more gameplay driven rather than social driven, if that makes sense. So they'll go to the bar and drink, and they'll order food and try as hard as they can to destabilize the economy by taking their crazy rewards that they get and going and hey, you gave me a chicken, here's 10 gold pieces because I don't really care about it as much. So yeah, they like to try and destabilize the local economy and give me a hard time there, but yeah, I definitely would recommend it, doing the downtime activities, because not only is it it's stress off your chest, right? Because you don't really need to plan for that. It's not a plot point you need to be worried about, and it's something they'll enjoy doing most likely. So yeah, I definitely do use them and recommend them.
Yeah, definitely. When I started DMing, I would play so like 3 sessions would probably be 1 day of in-game time. So downtime activities was hard because I remember one player coming and saying I wanted to learn a new language, and I looked up the rules for a new language, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but it was something like you have to study for 120 days and then you'll know the language. And I was like, how the hell are they going to do that? That's like the campaign's going to have ended. But it now makes sense to me because I've altered my gameplay style where sometimes there will just be 2 weeks of I'm like, right, nothing's going on for 2 weeks. What do you guys want to get done? And then they can do downtime activities. Sometimes we've even time skipped months ahead, and it's worked. So I think downtime activities are good. It just can be quite hard to do if you run the type of game where it's day, 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 and there's always something going on in the story.
Yeah.
I think
That's one of the things that nobody really talks about, is what's the best way, and then there's no real answer to it too. It all depends on the flow of your story, the flow of your game, what's going on in terms of the flow of time. Like just like you said, I mean, I have sessions that are an hour long in game time based on combat. Just like we have too many combats, and those combat like eats time because when you at the end of it, it's like it takes 40 minutes to run through a combat, but in game that's like 2 minutes, 5 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing I'll say about downtime as well, which I've done and has worked quite well, is sometimes when someone's asked to do something in the downtime activity, I've ran a one-on-one session with them. If it's something which sounds like it would be a good idea. So, for example, one guy wanted to go to a place and steal a thing, and I was like, this would be a pretty awesome one-on-one. Like he was a shadow monk, so he was like a stealthy guy, and I was
Yeah,
like,
very
yeah,
cool.
this would be quite a fun one-on-one session, and that worked really well as well. And then it's also adds the element of there's something that player knows that the rest of your party don't know, which is quite a fun element to add in as well. And yeah, that worked pretty well. So give that a go if you're doing downtime activities as well. It's Mr. Kage, do you run a session 0? And if so, how?
100%. And I honestly, I don't know how you don't. I mean, my session zeros are full character creation. Usually people will come in with like a story idea that we'll talk about before that session 0. But like the character creation is usually or the session 0, sorry, is definitely the actual like we're gonna roll for stats, we're gonna pick out all of our features. You know, if you have any questions, your starting equipment, starting gold, all that stuff, that all gets hammered out there. When I did a session, I did a sub campaign in my homebrew world with a group of different people I was running at a cyber cafe nearby. With them, it was kind of different. I didn't know them very well, so that's where the survey came out with like, okay, hey, what are you expecting from me? What are you expecting from here? What are your triggers? You know, what are things that if they come up in the campaign you're going to be uncomfortable with? Those kind of tools came into play. But for my original stuff, where it was just with people that I knew very well, that wasn't in play. But yeah, I mean, I absolutely recommend the session 0. How about you, Shrike?
Yeah, definitely. I'm in the same boat as you. I'm not sure how people do it without a session 0. As you sort of mentioned, you have to make the characters for one, and it's always a good place to set boundaries and stuff like that as well, and talk about what type of game you're playing. I've had it before where I've had a player drop out because in my games I do a lot less exploration than other DMs. I think I do a lot more story and combat, and then little exploration, I would say. And they just didn't enjoy that, so dropped out. And so I've learned from there, just make it clear from the get go what they should expect from the game, and then you won't have problems like that as well. I think this is one of the things that I've been meaning to script because I'm going to do a video on session 0. I've just not got round to it yet because it's a question that we've got quite a few times on this show now. What should be included in a session 0? So there's obviously people who are who are asking and are wondering. So I will make a video at some point. I don't know when, but I will.
Well, there's I most of my session zero ideas were not my own. I had some information I knew I needed to get out of them, but like I said, like I mentioned earlier, when I was getting into this world, I had lots of resources that existed online through YouTube. Like Dungeon Dudes have a session zero guide, and a lot of people do. So anyone who's out there who's like, trying to get their feet wet, go find those resources. There's people who have answered that question, and although they're, go get multiple opinions, because everything they say in their video is probably not going to be everything you need, or might not be everything you need. And, also it's like an experience thing, at least to me. I think, you'll learn quick the first time you do something, whether it feels right or not, and you probably won't include it in your next time.
Yeah, definitely. There's lots of content out there for everyone to learn D&D nowadays, or different aspects of D&D. Okay, we've got a question from Ray. I know that D&D is not built for PvP, but would you do a 5v5 one-shot with the builds you made with the Patreons in the future? It's Ray, by the way.
So yes, this is a tough question for me, because and this came up. We did a PvP thing with another YouTube creator, where I took my builds in against his builds, and we got smashed for the most part, because I knew this going in, because these aren't power builds. I mean, these are hey, you have 5 champion abilities you need to get, and then after that you need to capture their lore and flavor. And to accomplish that, man, I mean, you're not getting all those powerful things. You're not doing magic items. You're doing things that aren't going to win you fights. So what we did do that was a lot of fun, though, instead was we did a community ARAM event where I took the Howling Abyss map, which is the ARAM map. It's the ice bridge. Brought it into Roll20. I kind of like did some cool stuff with the Elite camera and screenshot it. Brought it into the Roll20 world, and then I made I think it was Kha'Zix, Rek'Sai, and Cho'Gath into monsters. And then they went through and fought all 3 of them. Or the first 2, the Rek'Sai and Kha'Zix, they beat them. So it was kind of PvE, but with like 5 people from the Patreon playing their own league builds.
Cool.
Yeah, so at each tower, they fought Kha'Zix and Rek'Sai. And then at the end, when they got to the Nexus and were fighting Cho'Gath, Kha'Zix and Rek'Sai respawned, just like they would in ARAM, and went and fought them at the end too, which was more fun than I think a 5v5 PvP would be. I feel like the PvP in general, man, I just feel like feelings get hurt, and I don't want that. I don't like dealing with conflict unnecessarily, and I don't want to be the one ruining someone's day or hurting someone's pride. I do that enough on the build stream when I don't agree with someone's ideas. I don't want to do it like in a game.
This is something I was going to bring up. So the only PvP, so every time I finish the campaign, I do a PvP thing at the end, which is an all v all. Like the characters just go in an arena, duke it out. But I've had like years of relationship with those people, so no, and they have with each other, so they know there's not going to be hard feelings. They know what type of DM I am, and that I will probably let some stuff fly just for the rule of cool, and stuff like that. I could not imagine doing a PvP event with 10 strangers that I don't know what type of player they are or how they are as people. That would be horrible for me. So I couldn't imagine doing that.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of the PvE thing that you did. That sounds really interesting, actually. A really good idea.
It was fun. I wish I had saved the assets for it, because there's no reason I couldn't run it again. But I didn't, of course, like an idiot. I wasn't. It's tough, man. I think you probably understand this too. Just like as a content creator, I don't. And someone who struggles with confidence at times, like I don't know what people are gonna like. So I try to invest as much time to get it going, and then in that example, like I didn't find out till afterwards how much everyone liked it and wanted to do it again. So I'd already scrapped everything, but I wish I hadn't. I don't know if you if you have that problem.
You'll just have to remake it one day, I'm afraid,
Yep.
and run people through it again. Okay, well, we've still got quite a few questions. We haven't even needed to use the Twitter questions this week. There's been so many coming through in the live chat. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so let's try and do a little bit of quick fire so we can get through everyone's questions here because we've got about 15 minutes left. So, Fred, do you allow players, characters to be riding mounts other than horses at some point in your campaign?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because I have one friend who wanted a Drake, got him a Drake. Doesn't have wings, doesn't fly. It's just one of those wingless dragons that kind of lopes on the ground. Um, a lot of times, I like to level with my players. Right, it's a back and forth. As long as if you want something for flavor and fun, and you promise you're not going to mechanically abuse it, let's do it. Let's get you this giant toad mount, and we'll make it statistically work just like World of Warcraft. If you ever played that, yeah, I mean, this isn't nowhere near as fast as a horse in real life, but if you're gonna have fun with it, and you're not gonna be a jerk, and it'll just make you feel good, and I'm all on board with that. Let's do that.
Yeah, definitely. I think exotic mounts are fun, and especially if you've got veteran players, they don't expect you to allow it. So it's a real good novelty for them. I remember allowing a Displacer Beast once, which was pretty mental.
Oh yeah.
And then someone wanted a phase spider for comic value. So they would be on the phase spider, and then the spider would phase out, and they would fall to the floor because they couldn't go with the spider. So that was pretty funny as well. But as long as you can fairly balance it, because I had it before in my first campaign where I essentially gave a player something that made them significantly more powerful than the rest of the party. And it's not that I care about how powerful they are against the enemies, because as a DM you can control that, but it was the case that the other players didn't feel like they were as powerful. And so yeah, that's I guess the balancing act, is if you give someone something that's too powerful, the other players might feel a bit disgruntled about it.
Absolutely, because you don't want someone stealing the spotlight all the time. You don't want people being shown up all the time. I mean, every homebrew item I've ever made has come with to my players know, it comes with the asterisk of, hey, I'm not a mathematical genius, and I'm not an expert on the rules and every little ins and out that you could probably possibly do with this. If you abuse this, I will fix it. You'll get it off the one time, and everyone will laugh that I let that go through, or made that the mistake to let that do that thing, but it won't do it again. And I've that's never been a night ruiner for me, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so the next one, another one from Slick. Without giving away anything private, how long does it take you to make your videos? I'm aware getting the game footage is the most consuming part, but what's the grand total on average?
So this is gonna be a little bit of behind the scenes on the secret sauce, but gameplay footage actually takes the least of the work. I have a secret on how I get the gameplay footage. Getting the footage takes about an hour. It's writing the script and doing all the other little parts that kind of takes the long time. So you say probably an hour to record and do, like, the whole editing process, maybe another half an hour in rendering, or at 2.5. What else? Then you have all the little things, the little details on the side, like the thumbnail, like the description, the video description, like what tags are you going to use, all that. That's where the majority of the time goes, and that's all in the script. I would say probably like 4 to 8 hours, depending. On depending on the champion. If it's an easier champion, it's less. If it's a more complicated champion, it's more. A good indicator is how many levels of the character I actually have to talk about, because I don't do all 20 levels anymore. That was a change we made a while back that significantly shortened it, and you guys probably noticed there are a lot more. And not only when you shorten it, then that means there's more quality to it. So I hope that answered that question, Slick.
Yeah, definitely. I think people don't realize how long the scripting process can take for videos a lot of the time. I'm the same boat where I think technically filming my videos is probably only half an hour, maybe 20 minutes to half an hour. But I take quite a long time to script them, and then I put quite a lot of effort into my editing as well. So my editing is probably about 3 hours of video. So yeah, it's quite a lot of work to make videos on YouTube. But as we sort of discussed earlier, it is definitely worth it.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing too is this is not either of our full-time jobs. And we're both fathers as well on top of that. So,
Yeah.
I try to fit as much of this time, and then also, I have to have you as a person. You need some sort of also recharge and relaxation time. It's all about that. It doesn't sound like a lot, right? Like 48 hours. Oh well, why don't you have 2 videos out a week? Well, if I did, then I'd be a miserable person, and I probably would have burnt out a long time ago.
Yeah, definitely. We got Rich coming by and saying hey as well. Thank you for coming by, Rich. I can see there's a question from you a bit later as well. So, Mr. Kage, do you run a game where the player is a part of the ruling family or government? Have you ever done that before?
Yeah. I wouldn't say a ruling family, not the ruling family. They were a big part of another kingdom's family. And the main things you got to think about are what as that player, what do they represent to your NPCs more than your players, right? It's just like think about it in real terms. If you had an ambassador or some sort of royal figure coming into like your hometown or your city and acting like like a jackass, how does that reflect on them? And then as a result, how are they going to react to the news of them acting like that? And as long as you keep the consequences along with the benefits that they're going to obviously get from having that royal lineage or royal privilege is probably the right word. It can be a lot of fun, and as long as they take it, respect it, then respect that you're gonna hold them to the fire of their actions. I think it can be great and have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's all in execution there. The only time I've done it has been a bit different. So the campaign was sort of based around taking down the government, and one of the players' backstories had decided that they were actually a daughter of the ruler, but who had been exiled a long time ago for reasons, and she had changed her look and was coming into this whole rebellion to take down her own family, but she didn't tell the rest of the players didn't know. So that was like her little secret that she was actually the daughter of the ruler. And then it came out at the end that she was the daughter because she essentially she had a hat of disguise. So when they fought the ruler at the finale, she took her hat of disguise off to reveal who she actually was, and then the ruler obviously knew it was her daughter, and it was a cool moment that all of the players didn't expect. So that's my only dealing with it, which is a bit different because she was disguising herself. So
Did you try to take control of the kingdom?
yes, so she did take it
Oh,
afterwards. That's another thing we always do with our campaigns when they end. We do like a 5-year skip forwards to see what everyone's been doing for 5 years
yeah.
and how their players. And it's quite interesting actually. Some people are like really honest, and they're like, "Oh yeah, my guy would have been dead." Dead by then. It would have gone into some crazy battle with something bigger and died. So that's always an interesting thing to wrap up a campaign, asking
Yeah.
people that as well. Cool. So, Rich Mary, what's the best snack a player can bring for their DM?
We do pretzel trays. That's our big thing. We have this. It's called the Philly Philly Pretzel Company. They're soft pretzels, and they're like kind of like little, like that big. And they have cool dips like cheese and
Nice.
mustard and cinnamon, and they're nice because they're not messy. And you don't get the residue on your hands like people at the beginning brought Doritos and stuff. Like no bad choices. Chips too oily.
That was going to be my big comment here. Anything that leaves residue on your fingers. So Doritos. We had donuts as well for a bit, and it's like that's really sugary and messy.
Yeah.
So any snack which isn't too messy, so you can just eat it, and then touch your book without leaving grease
Right.
stains on it. Is pretty much it. Mr. Kage, do you make a story arc? Oh, sorry, that was addition to the first one, so some clarification there. So how do you not make them much more important than the other players?
Oh,
And
So-
just to cut in, he's also said that one of my PCs is the royal princess of a matriarchal kingdom, which is what he's asking.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, and I think Shrike said it best. It's all about the execution, right? I mean, I think then you have two kind of routes, right? So the first route is talk to your other players, say, hey, this player is, and this is probably a session 0 thing, honestly. This player is going to be this role in this kingdom. That's going to be a big deal. Is that going to bother you that they're going to be naturally a little bit more important than you in certain storylines, in certain parts of the story? And if the answer is yes, then it's on you and that person and that player rather to elevate their story up to a similar way so that they get that kind of they get that kind of attention as well. And I think as long as you have an open communique back and forth between you and your other players, you can absolutely do that. In the example I gave, they actually liked it a lot because he is simultaneously the member of this royal family and also the punching bag of the group. So they enjoyed going to meet his family where he was also considered the punching bag, and it was just this. It turned into this big meme, and it was a lot of fun. But all that to say, it's all in the execution, like Shrike said at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. I think you brought up a good point there. That I know there's still a load of questions, so we've not got much time. Are you okay to go over the hour a bit to get all these questions done?
Yeah, I could do like 15 minutes more. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. We'll try and do it in 5 minutes. We're going to do some speed run after this one. But something that you mentioned there that I wanted to bring up is that it's quite a good exercise as a DM to work out what type of person your player is in terms of, do they like attention? Do they like to sit back and enjoy the story? Because there are different people. There are people that like attention and will want to be the center of attention, but just as many of them, there's also people that want to sit back and enjoy the story and then just have like a cool moment every here and there. So if the rest of your players are those people and then this one person wants to be the princess and stuff, that could be perfect, because then the rest of the players are happy to just play their minions or their bodyguards or whatever, and then that person could be the center of attention a lot of the time. So
the real thing is, the real funny thing to me is that there's two people in the game, right? There's the party face and then the player face, right? Because you're gonna have that character who is like the quietest the person who's like this quietest person, and they're playing like a warlock with like a 20 charisma, and they are the ones who actually need to be the face of the party for like for math or for roles and stuff, but they're too timid to like actually do that. And then you have like the actual person who's like, oh, I'm the clown, I like to be the one role playing all the time, and they're playing like a fighter with like where they dumped their charisma. It's like it's funny, like in the how do you balance that? Because I just kind of I let the personal role play kind of carry more weight than the numbers on the character sheet. I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah, definitely. I think I probably quite rarely ask for persuasion checks and the other one, deception checks, because it's usually in the execution of the player, and unless they're struggling, and I think their character would be better at it, then I might ask for it. But a lot of the time, I'll just be like, yeah, you've put a really good story together there. You just save the guard, crack on, rather than asking for a role. If I think because you have to try to reward role play as much as you can, especially because it's quite a hard thing to do, and it makes your table much more immersive if everyone's doing really good role play. So I try.
That's
to
why my
reward it as much as
DCs
I
are
can.
fluid.
Yeah.
Like if you're working this guard for information or trying to get out of something, and you spin out this crazy tale that's like, or like impressive, like in how much you've committed to it, and like you're doing all that, the DC is going way down. I'm gonna make you roll because at my table, nat ones and nat 20s are our lifeblood. Those create the highest highs and the lowest lows of our table. So much fun with those. So I do make people roll, but only because it's something we all enjoy.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
also never make them roll. I'm a firm believer in, if you're making people roll on something they can't actually do, you're just, that's like mean spirited, you know.
Yeah.
If they get, if
Sorry, my camera's refocusing on my face. Sorry about that.
I was wondering what that was. Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I like if you can't succeed on a nat 20, then they shouldn't be rolling in the first place.
yeah, definitely. Okay, on to a question from King. How many encounters do you throw at your party? I throw what should be deadly encounters at them, yet they slightly breeze through them.
How many encounters do I throw at my party?
I guess
I
per
don't.
day, how many would you
Yeah, that's
put?
what I took it as, and I would say, I try to get a feel for the. I try to get a feel, right? If we've gone too long without combat, I will create a scenario where they're going to be instigated. I know at this point I've been playing with these people for 3 years. Like I know how to get them to fight without someone walking up and punching them in the face. You know, all it takes is like a subtle disrespect, the subtle disrespect, and I can get one of them riled up and ready to fight. So if there hasn't been any combat in like 2 sessions, I will definitely instigate some combat with them, because I know that there are a couple people who are a little quieter, and they're really there for all of us being together and friends having fun. But they enjoy the combat more than the role play aspects. So I don't let 2 sessions go by without combat just for those players. Hope that.
Yeah.
What about you, Shrike?
Yeah, I think it depends on what's happening in the story. So they could be going through a dungeon, for example, and then they could be having 5 or 6 combat encounters each day, like in game day.
Yeah.
And then maybe that's 3 sessions of combat, or well, of the dungeon. Whereas, as I said earlier, sometimes I time skip, so they could go 2 weeks without technically any combat encounters happening, or we could just have full roleplay sessions. So it does depend quite a lot. I'd say most of the time I try to do 1 combat a session, no,
Mhm.
as a sort of roughly rule of thumb. And I've definitely had that exact same experience happen where I thought I was going to throw something deadly at them, and they've worked
Yeah.
out a way to just deal with it and then get on. That's just something that you have to get over and learn from, I think.
Or like they get 2 crits back to back, and your
Yeah,
monster that you
it's
thought was
over.
going to take them like 10 rounds is done in 2.
Yeah, definitely. So, Mr. Kage, where would you like to visit in Europe, and why is it Poland?
uh, so, yes, Poland is on that list. But in all seriousness, I think we are going across the pond to England.
Oh,
Hopefully
nice.
next year, for because my brother-in-law is going to be doing a semester abroad, and we might be visiting him. But that'll be over in the UK, not in Poland, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So we'll have to get our beer another time, buddy. I'm sorry.
Well, you'll just have to come over to England, Mr. Kage, and
Yeah.
enjoy some time after here. I've actually been to Poland. It's a very nice place. I went to, where did I go? Krakow and Warsaw. It's a pretty nice place, Poland. Actually, I enjoyed it a lot. I live in Europe, so I live in the UK. So I've been to quite a lot of places. So I guess that question's more for you than it is for me. So this is a very broad question. So how do you create magic items in 5e? I'm not sure if this is for how a player or how a character would create a magic item, or how you as a DM would create one. So choose how you want to answer.
Yeah, so the first thing I do is plagiarize. I go look for an item that does something similar to what I want it to do, and I look at its verbiage. To me, any amount of homebrew you create, you want to be. I think the most important thing when doing homebrew is a consistency in language, um, because you want your players to be able to read your item and understand it very easily. That's what I mean when I say plagiarize. I don't mean literally copy the the text and stuff like that, but I mean like if you're doing a +1 weapon, make sure it says +1 to attack and damage rolls. And then when it comes to creating the effect, balancing it, that's a whole discussion. But in terms of creating the effect, you want to be careful. You want to think of things that aren't already accomplished by other things. Otherwise, it kind of feels like you're taking away the agency of that, or in the effect that feature has. But at the same time, like if you wanted to grant things like that, like I gave my one ranger an eyeglass. It was called the Eagle's Eye, and it gave him the sharpshooter feat. So I gave him that ability without taking away its agency from the actual feature itself. So that's probably how I'd answer that question.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I would do, is take from other. I think so much has been made out there that you can take and then tweak for your own games. So that's how I mostly would go about magic items most of the time. Sometimes I might, if I get really deep into it, then I might completely make something from scratch. But I'd say 99% of the time I'm just taking something and tweaking it slightly. As you said, you could take a feat, you could take a class ability, you could take stuff from all over the place and put it into magic items. Cool. Right. How many have we got left? 1, 2. Looks about 3. Oh, Mr. Kage did say Dad works in London, so there you go. He's coming over.
Oh,
confirmed.
Perfect.
If you come over, I'll join you.
We'll stop at the pub.
Well. Yeah, exactly. There you go. As members of the game community for a long time, do you think we'll see another class created, or is D&D just going to be subclasses at this point?
Oh, that's such a good question. Honestly, if you had asked me 6 months ago before I heard they were doing 6th edition, I would definitely lean towards another class. But I think for the remainder of 5e, if they're continuing, if they are actually going towards a 6e, I have to imagine that so my understanding of game development is that if you're building something new, you have your core developers working on the new thing, and you have like kind of this like smaller team pumping out content for the existing game. And if that's the case, then I'm going to assume that the best they're going to be able to do is subclasses, because I don't know if for anyone who's out there who's done class creation is hard. Subclasses very easy, comparably. Subclasses, most of your like, to use my analogy with the skeleton before, skeleton's built, nervous system's built, you're just putting in some muscles, you know what I mean, and wrapping a skin around it to make it look pretty. Class creation though, man, that's the whole thing. So to answer your question, I think it'll be subclasses, and unless 6e isn't happening, in which case maybe we do get a new class.
Yeah, I think it will just be subclasses now, unfortunately. Slick Sick also saying that he's holding out hope for a shaman class, which would be cool. I know Dawnforged Cast, a YouTuber called Dawnforged Cast, who I think he's deleted his YouTube channel now, actually, but he made a shaman, which was really cool. It was all based around putting totems on the battlefield that have different effects, and it was a really cool idea. So it would be awesome to see something like that. I do sort of feel like if they did a shaman now, though, it would be a subclass of druid.
It already is. Maybe, I mean,
yeah,
you have. I've talked about a shaman. I agree with Slick. I would love to see a shaman. But I think I feel like every time I've talked about that, I've heard someone say, "Well, what about the totem barbarian?" Or what about is it Shepherd Druid? I want to say that has the spirits that are basically totems.
Yeah.
It's so. I agree. I wish there was a shaman, but I don't think we're getting one.
No, if they do it, I think it will be a subclass of some variety. Maybe even an artificer subclass. I don't know. Maybe. Probably most likely druid though.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So party derailed a story and follow out unimportant stuff. How'd you get them back on track without telling them?
That's a good question. I think the real answer is that you rename everything. You just you if you wanted them to go to town, let's say Shrike right? And they're like, oh no, we're avoiding Shrike, we're heading up to this city up here. Well, you just take all of the information you had made for Shrike, move it up there, and now it's Doransdale. But you've done all the legwork, you know. I mean, that's probably the best way to do it. If your goal is to keep them on on the rail, you know. Or there's that way. There's like a couple ways to do it, right? The other way is just incentivize them to go back. Take an important note from their backstory and make them and make them have an incentive, have a reason to go back into the main story. Maybe your character's mother is dying without this medicine that you'd get it if you did this task, kind of thing. I don't know. That's probably what I would do.
I think the 3 points there that I would say is the first one that you said, where you just pick up something and put it where they're going instead. So if they decide to go to a different town, you just pick up the town you've already made and just change some bits so that it fits. The second one is what you said as well, the backstory part of it. That always will hook your players back in because they care about, but their backstory is much more about than arbitrary stuff. And then the third one is just make it important is the other thing. If they decide they want to go to the docks because they've heard something about people stealing from boats or something like that, maybe make that sea hags is the thing, and it is actually quite exciting to look into. So yeah, they're the 3 points. Either just change it, add in someone's backstory, or make it important. Cool. Right, we have got to the last question now here. So, how do you get someone into D&D and over the roadblocks that make it great but difficult to get into, i.e., the math aspect, the roleplay, note taking, etc., especially if it's their first time?
That's a loaded question. But I think the simple answer is communicating with that person and identifying what the stopping blocks are, right? And then there's an answer for each one. So for the math aspect, if math isn't your forte, that's totally cool. We have tools like D&D Beyond. There's plenty of apps now at this point on your phone that can do all the math for you. So there's that. You have tools to counteract that. If role play is your perspective, then that as you as a DM counter that and say, oh well, you don't need to do that much role play. My players don't do voices, or some of my players don't do voices, don't do any of the role play other than hey, I want to talk to this person and things like that. They're their same person except they're playing a game. It's all about finding the note taking. That's a good one. I have one person in my party who takes notes, and because of that, everyone appreciates that player. But they always ask me, "Oh, who is this person?" And I just point to the note taker and say, "Oh, ask him." And he usually knows. But because I know they don't take notes, my feelings aren't hurt when they've forgotten who random NPC number 12 is, who they encountered, 3 sessions ago. They don't remember. It's about setting my expectations of them as a result of that. And if you don't make them feel bad for having those deficiencies, like if you don't make someone feel bad because they don't roleplay, if you don't make someone feel bad because they need a little help with their character sheet or knowing how much damage they did, I really think that's more the challenge, and that'll lead to the better result.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's some really good points there. I think the big part that you said there is communicate what the roadblock is and then deal with the roadblock. I actually had this situation with the first time I played D&D. I decided I wanted to play D&D. So I said to my friends, let's play D&D. And they all said, no. What is D&D? I don't want to play it. So I did exactly that, got over the roadblocks, and then just convinced them to do one session. Just do one shot session. I did a lot of the heavy lifting for them, i.e. I just explained what the classes and the races were, and then they told me what they wanted to play, and I made the characters for them. And then one by one, I sat them down and said, here is a list of everything you can do, and made it extremely simple for them. Anything else you want to do, you just have to tell me, and then I'll tell you what to roll. So make it very easy for them. And then, from my experience, every time someone has played one session, they have wanted to play more. So you just need to try to get them to play that one session, make it very easy for them and very fun, and then they'll be hooked. I think. Cool. We got through. Oh, there was a lot of questions this week, so thank you for staying a bit later as well. We got
no
through
problem.
them all. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you?
The Dorans and Dragons YouTube channel, and I do post on Twitter, but not as much as some other people do. I think that's about it. We don't really do social too much. We have a Patreon that you can join and get a part of our Discord, which the Discord is honestly we stream on Twitch. We do our build streams on Twitch, but the Discord is where the best part of this channel has come from. Oh, the shirts. Yes, I made shirts from all of our class icons. They're finally in. Oh wait, over here. There we go. Yeah. We made class icons for our shirts, or shirts for our class icons. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, Shrike. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Everything is down in the description as well, so if you want to go and check out the YouTube channel and the Twitter and all of that stuff. We had our shirts at the end there as well, and some thanks for the stream as well. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming. We will end it there, and thank you for all of you that stayed a bit later as well. It was a really good discussion. So Thank you all for coming, and I will see you all next week with a different guest. So see you later.
See you guys.